time for what it's worth. I will text this to you right now. I will also tell you, actually, do you use an iPhone?
Yes.
Okay. So I would highly suggest downloading the Zoom app. They have a really good app.
Okay.
And you do have it? Good. And it's a lot easier to, in my opinion, to use. So I will, I'm going to send you the meeting invite. And then I would, I would probably, like I said, I would probably save this. So if I can get the meeting invite, hang on. All right, let's see, meetings.
And I can save it so that I can watch it again, you're saying?
Well, a couple of things. And I honestly, I'm going to probably, what I think I'm going to do, because I think this would be good for a bunch of people to see, some of what we'll go over. I'm going to go live to Facebook. So it'll also be saved on our Facebook group. But more what I was saying is the meeting ID that I use for Zoom is the same one every time. In other words, so if we're ever like, hey, let's hop on a Zoom, this ID that I'm sending you right now, it's like the same one every time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You follow me?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. So I just, yeah, exactly. Or what we had in the packet too. So, okay, cool. So I just sent you that. Do you want to go ahead and hop on and then we'll get rolling?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll see you on Zoom in a minute. Okay. All right. Good morning, Doug Levi, Strategic Insurance, InsuranceSideHustling.com. Hope everybody's doing great. Wherever you're hearing us, however you're tuning in. So I'm actually getting ready to do some training with an agent, Melinda. Good morning, Melinda. How you doing? So, and the magic of technology. So Melinda's in her car, but asking me some great questions about replacement cost estimates and homeowners and things like that. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to do a video and do a little training here. So Melinda, I'm sharing my screen here. Hopefully you can see that, however tiny it is on Zoom. Can you see this a little bit? Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just kind of talk. I want to just talk big picture on a few things when we talk about replacement cost estimates. And Melinda sent me a text this morning and said, hey, how do we find and make sure we have the right coverage for a home? Love it. Great question. By the way, that's super important. That's a really important thing to understand as you're in the insurance business. So the short answer is all carriers that we work with, for the most part, have their own tool to do a replacement cost estimate. Okay. Now I'm going to pull up now, for the sake of training, one that I just did recently. And this is on a commercial building. Okay. But the concepts are the same. And in fact, some of the software they use is exactly the same. So if you look here, this was a policy we wrote with Nationwide. And I'm gonna put my little annotator on here. I feel like a little teacher. I'm gonna put my little red highlighter on here. So this is something we did with Nationwide. If you say at the top, it says Valuation Detailed Report. You'll also see it sometimes referred to again as replacement cost estimate, insurable value replacement, various things. And so again, if we just kind of say big picture, what does that mean and why is it important? Well, What it means is how much coverage does the person have on their building, and how do we figure that out? Each of the carriers that we work with has tools to do that. So if we just scan through this one briefly, and now this is an apartment complex that we just insured in Tennessee. Okay. So you're going to see the address. A couple of things I also want to highlight. You're going to see cost as of 12/20. So here's what's important, because sometimes what you're going to get from clients is, oh, no, I don't need that much coverage. Trust me, Melinda, especially when you start doing this more and more, you're going to hear people say that, I don't need that. I can insure it for a lot less.
Yeah.
And everyone, here's the reality. And I've seen there's like a really funny meme, and it's kind of like what people expect for their insurance. And it's sort of like the Taj Mahal. And then what they want to pay for, it's like, this little tiny dump, right? So your job is to really help them make sure they're properly insured, making good recommendations to them. So people say, no, I don't need it, or I can, do it for less. Well, here's a third-party tool that kind of weeds that out. And this is done and updated quarterly. So in other words, these results are literally as of 4 months ago in terms of the last time this system was updated, and they do it by zip code. So it's normally fairly accurate. Okay. So you scroll down and it's going to show square footage, construction, year built. Now, there's normally going to be more to it than that. But if I were to say, hey, what is the core of a replacement cost estimate, or what do you need to understand? It would be construction and square footage. By far the two biggest things. Think about it. The bigger the building, the more coverage I need. Would you agree with that, Melinda? That makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. And then also, depending on the materials that are used, the more expensive. So if I'm using brick, if I'm using block, that's going to cost more than frame or wood. Very simple, right? I always tell people, like, we overcomplicate this stuff, but if you just try and really think simply, what are you doing? It will help you a lot. Okay. Now, in this case, you plug in some of that info. And again, there's a lot more detail here, but I'm just going to kind of get to the bottom. It then gives us a number, and it says, okay, your replacement cost is $1.7 million. Your price per square foot is about $142. Here's really important training, really, really good takeaway. And here's the other thing that I tell people as you're talking with people, Melinda, and you're out there. Very rough rule of thumb. We may have even talked about this a little bit the other day on the other case, but to reiterate, really anywhere probably from, let's say, $110 a square foot to $150 a square foot is a rough indication of how much coverage someone should have. I don't care whether it's personal. I don't care whether it's commercial. It may be more, but rarely will it be less. It is very hard to replace any building less than $110 a square foot. I don't care where you're at. And then, of course, depending where you're at, like Melinda happens to be in Florida like me, and in South Florida, love South Florida, awesome area, but it's expensive. You don't have to be an actuary for most people to say, oh yeah, Miami's more expensive than a lot of parts of the country, just in general, everything, right? Well, building's no different. It's probably going to cost more to build a home in Miami than it's going to cost to build a home in, say, the middle of Kansas, right? So just, that's an easy way as you're looking at policies, you're talking to clients, and they're talking about coverage, and you look and you say, okay, this guy looks a little underinsured, or perhaps overinsured. Now, we do see that as well. Sometimes what happens when people had a policy from years ago and it just keeps renewing and keeps renewing, and they get more coverage and more coverage and more coverage, and they haven't had an agent look at it, there are times where they could be overinsured. Okay. So those are just very high level on replacement cost. Obviously, square footage, the type of construction, very important. We have these tools to figure out. This is a great way for you to push back on your client and say, hey, here's really what you need. Okay. And to go from there. So what I'm going to do now, we're going to walk into a homeowner scenario. So now, and Melinda, do we have anything in EasyLink so far, or what do you have?
No, not yet.
So you were just kind of wondering and saying like, hey, kind of tell me about this, Doug. Is that right?
No, well, I sent an email to quotes at Get Strategic.
That's right. And then they were asking you about the dwelling coverage. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I'd have to look into that one specifically, depending on what you sent, and perhaps there wasn't enough detail for them to do that. I don't know. I will dig into that. But what I want to do for sake of time now, I want to just show you an easy one where you can do, and we'll do this so you can see this. Okay, so this is on our homeowners list in robo form. I'm going to go to universal property and casualty. Okay. Universal property and casualty, and just a little bit as we're kind of waiting for this to pull up here. They're the largest insurer in the state of Florida. So for those of you that are doing business in Florida, the largest insurer. Now, they are also closed in a lot of areas right now, but they also have a pretty simple replacement cost estimate. So let's for sake of our activity right now and just for time, do you actually have a client you wanted to look at, Melinda?
Yeah, I can give you, you need a property address?
Okay. What's the client's name?
Hold on. I have it right here. You want me to spell it for you?
Yeah.
Okay. The first name is Yetnayet, Yetnayet, and the last name Tadesse.
Tedeschi. Okay. Is that a man or a woman?
Woman.
It's a woman. Okay. And what's a phone number? Do we have a phone number for her?
No.
Okay. What about what's her address?
I have the address here. It's 22233 Southwest 89th Avenue. And that's Cutler Bay, Florida.
And the zip?
33190.
33190. Okay. All right. So we've got Cutler Bay 33190. Do we have an email for her or no?
No.
Okay. So those are some basic things, obviously, that we typically need, right? Just in general. And Melinda alluded to our quotes at. So we have a back office support team that helps our agents run proposals, right? Pretty beautiful thing. Now, to be fair, there's a minimal amount of info that you're going to have to get to them, either a fact finder or a deck page. And then depending on the scenario, they may ask for more information, right? So we've got to get a minimum amount of information to run the proposal. And one of the things that we typically need is a phone and an email. If you look even here, it's required. I can't even get past the screen without it. So for right now, just for purposes of this, Melinda, I'm just putting your info in, because really the purpose and really the training of this and what I titled it is really for our replacement cost estimate. Okay. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to click create quote. We're going to click homeowners, HO3. Okay. And then the zip code again. What was the zip code again? 33190. Okay. And now it's saying it's closed. So they're closed. So for now, for purposes, what I'm going to do, because they're closed in that zip code, I'm going to pick a zip code where they're open in and a home that they're open in, just so I can show you guys really the purpose of the replacement cost estimate. So I'm going to pull up someone that I know that lives in Orlando, and we're going to try and click a quote here. And then we'll say 32779. Let's see, hopefully. Okay. So this let me in. So, and again, right now, for purposes of this, guys, we're primarily just trying to get the understanding of the replacement cost estimate. Okay. So I'm going to put in here some basic information that I know about this home. This happens to be someone we know well. And we've got address, year built, zip. We're going to click save. We're going to go next to the coverage tab. Okay. It's going to pull through some of the data from Property Appraiser. So a lot of times they will pull through data from Property Appraiser. I'm going to click accept. And then from here, this little tool, it's this little calculator. It says replacement cost estimate. And again, this is really what I want people to see. Now, they already do this for you. And if you look, the carriers are getting quicker and quicker at this. But I just wanted to kind of take a minute and go through this. Okay. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to pull up Property Appraiser. And those of you that are not familiar with this, this is a very important concept and something to learn and understand. So all property, real property in the country, by the way, is recorded typically by the local county property appraiser. And what's nice about that, it's good from a marketing standpoint and a research standpoint because you can look up information online. Okay. So if you look here, I'm looking this person up online on the property appraiser for the county that she's in. Now, why is this important? This is important because let's say I have very, very minimal info on a client. Like I get a referral from a realtor who says, hey, I've got a client buying a home at, 100 Main Street in Knoxville, Tennessee. Doesn't matter where. And she can't talk, that realtor can't talk. You can say, okay, well, I can look up some basic info online. The other thing that a lot of people know as well, look, you can go to Zillow. A lot of people know Zillow. You've heard of Zillow before, Melinda?
Yes.
Okay, so a lot of people know Zillow is the largest real estate website in the country. And you can also get a lot of info from Zillow. So I'm doing the same thing here. And I'm just trying to show people kind of a way to navigate through how to get information, how to look at things, right? So by the way, when you go to Zillow, and Zillow can be a really good place to start as well, it will give you a quick summary, 3 beds, 2 baths, square footage, show you the area, and it will also show you pictures, right? A picture's worth 1,000 words, they've often said before. So you can kind of get to see the house a little bit. Oh, okay, kind of see what it looks like, etc. Right? Okay. If I scroll down in Zillow as well, depending on when the home was last listed with them, sometimes it will give me more information, right? It may tell me updates. It may tell me, if there's an HOA or anything like that. It may show me taxes and all these things. Okay. And honestly, a lot of times they're pulling from property appraiser as well. So again, recommendation would be you could either go to Zillow and type it in there, or if you want, you can actually go to the actual property appraiser website. And then from there, you typically have to kind of just poke around and see, okay, well, is it legal description? No, it's probably going to be under building information. So building information shows me, and again, confirming some of these things, you're built 1977, 3 bed, 2 bath, 1666 square feet, concrete block construction. One thing to highlight, they're normally going to show you your total square footage as well. Do you any idea what the difference between those two is, Melinda?
I guess like the lot that the house is sitting on. I'm not sure.
Good thought. Good thought. No, that's actually typically another number as well. That's probably going to be under land, depending on our legal description. Okay. The building where it says total versus living, you want to think about this. Living square footage is your heated or air conditioned square footage. The rest of it could be your garage, could be a patio, could be a porch, right?
Oh, cool. Okay.
So if you think about that, now this is really important because here's what I also want you to think about. If you're starting to do this and you start going, and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to run everything and I'm going to put in 2461 square feet. And let's even do this right now. If I go into the property appraiser, or I'm sorry, to the replacement cost estimator, and I put in 2461 in terms of the square footage, what do you think that's going to do to the replacement cost?
It's definitely going to change it.
Yeah, it's going to increase it quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
So that replacement cost went up almost an extra $85,000. So you may be in a situation where you're competing against another agent, and if you're quoting one obviously higher coverage and they're quoting a lower coverage, the rate's going to be different. Now, your goal is to quote accurate coverage, because there's a lot of times where other agents will quote very, very low coverage just to try and get a deal. That doesn't mean it's the right thing for the client, and it could come back to kind of bite you in the what if there was a claim and we wrote them with very, very low coverage, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm highlighting here is simply as we can put, you always want to use the heated square footage, right?
Okay.
At base area or heated square footage or under air, that's what the carrier is going to look at. That's how they're going to primarily rate the replacement cost estimate. Okay. So if we look here and when I click at it, a couple things. Again, square footage and year built popped up. And by the way, they pulled that square footage through automatically. And if you notice, they did the total finished square footage. And you see here, it even says excludes finished, unfinished basement or built-in or attached garage, right? Mm-hmm. Then we've got quality. And then, so this is an area where we can have a little bit of wiggle room, if any, with the replacement cost estimate. There are also times where you may see, and this has happened to me a lot over the years, where sometimes when people are buying a home and they're working and they're getting a mortgage, if their numbers are very tight, and when I say very tight, that means if their debt to income ratio and all their numbers are very, very tight to qualify for the mortgage. Sometimes the mortgage broker will say their insurance can't be any more than $2,000 a year, 2,500 a year, 35, whatever the number is. So they may put pressure on you as the insurance person to have that price at a certain spot. And one of the ways to do that is based on the coverage. So again, you've got to be careful with that, depending on what the client needs, what they can qualify for, on and on. But that's just some kind of good info and things to understand. Where I'm going with that, if you look here, a lot of these sites now also kind of give you pictures, right? So they say, hey, the quality, is it economy, standard, above average, customer, premium? For most clients and most people, you're probably going to be either standard or above average. You can very easily click on the pictures and get a sense of what the differences are, right? Obviously, as I go up in value, as I go up in size, my custom and my premium are going to be my bigger homes, more expensive, higher finishes. Above average, standard, economy, as we kind of go up the scale, it's going to be more expensive. So again, most are probably going to fall into either standard or above average, okay? And so if I go and I just put standard for most of the features for cabinets, countertops, and again, if you're like, well, what are like above average countertops look like? What do custom look like? What do premium look like? You're really getting a sense here. And I think this is really, really good because again, the picture's worth 1,000 words. So, and you can talk to your clients and ask them, well, tell me about the home. How updated is it? Is it, is it more basic? Or, and even now today, what I'll say, and I've been in the business 18 years, 18 years ago, granite was not as prevalent in a kitchen. Now today it's, where like 18 years ago, granite was like a big upgrade. Maybe it was more Formica or Corian or something like that. Today it's much more common. So you could say, well, is granite more standard? Now it's like, okay, well, is it quartz or is it marble or whatever? Is it even more and more expensive types of materials, right? And this is also an opportunity to engage with your clients and your prospects a little bit. Tell me about the home. What are you buying? What's it like, etc.? What are you doing to it? All right, all those things. Have some fun with that. So I'm going to just put everything as standard here. A lot of the other things are going to pre-fill that I really don't need to do a lot with. Now, if I calculate this now, you notice the number actually dropped from the initial quote that just automatically pulled through. So this is also important to know, is if you're going and you're doing this and you just pull through whatever the system pulls through, you may be a little bit high. You may be a little bit low. This is where it can kind of help you to take a minute and actually look at this. So from there, you can click the valuation report. And if I click the valuation report and I then go and I can save it. Okay. And so I'll go and I'll save this and I'll just put, I always recommend people when you're saving things, especially as you get busier and busier. And if you look at mine, and I just cleaned out my data transfer, I've created a folder on my desktop. I guess just call it data transfer. You could call it pending files. You could call it anything you want. I've just tried to create a space where I can save proposals, replacement costs, important documents that I'm working on for clients, right? I always recommend you call it whatever it is, like the client's name, replacement cost estimate, the client's name, homeowner's proposal, universal. So it'll become easier and easier for you as you have more and more. So this I'm just going to call sample replacement cost estimate for training. Okay. Now, if we look at this here, now you have a nice report that you can share with your clients. So all that information that got put into the system now comes out into this report, right? And so again, we kind of showed you that commercial one. This is a homeowner's one showing cost per square foot is coming in at about $167. Square footage, 1666, year built, shape of the roof, interior wall height, kitchens, baths, etc. I'm going to put all of that right there. So each of the homeowners carriers is going to have their own replacement cost estimate. I will tell you this as well. They can all vary a little bit depending on the software that's used. You should sort of see a range, but they're going to vary a little bit. And in general, our quotes at team will do and put this info in for you. Again, we've already said I'll have to dig in and find out. And Melinda, why don't you forward me that email that you got so I can
Okay.
understand that better of what specifically was going on in your case. But in general, this is what a replacement cost estimate is. This is what you would do. This is what you would look for. This is sort of how to understand it, where they're getting some of the info from. And each one of the carriers, like if we were to go, and I'm not going to do it for sake of time now, but if we were to go into each one of the other carriers here on our RoboForms website, each one of the other carriers would have a homeowner's replacement cost in there somewhere. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Was that helpful?
definitely.
Awesome. Any questions that I can answer for you?
No, I think you covered
Okay.
it all.
Well, great. Well, listen, the best thing you can do, and this is good training for really anyone out there who's on our team or just getting started, the more you do, the more you'll know, right? And that's probably true with anything in life. And so the best thing you can do if you're a new advisor, you're just getting started, or you're thinking about this or whatever, wherever you're at sort of in your journey, roll up your sleeves and just start getting leads, start getting prospects, and then bring them to us. That's what we're doing right now. Melinda's been great, just trying to engage, right? She's getting some prospects, some leads, and that's what she's doing. And then, you know, you start doing 4 or 5, 10, 15, 20 of these, you're going to know this really well. And so Melinda, good luck with it. Keep me posted on anything you need, and hope everybody else out there has a great day. Okay.
Thank you.
See ya.